In today's reading from the Acts of the Apostles, St. Paul says something that it's one of those things you just wish he wouldn't have said, one of those things that you wish wasn't true. But he said, "I know quite well that when I am gone, fierce wolves will invade you and will have no mercy on the flock." Like many things that the early church taught, or like many things even Jesus himself said, it's just really, really bad marketing. You know, these are just not the things you should say, or these things shouldn't be true. If you want to build up a church and you fill people with enthusiasm, you're going to get hammered. You're going to get invaded, and there are going to be contradictions, and there are going to be tensions, and there's going to be division and anger and vice and human frailty and all of that. And I think he knew this was going to happen. It did happen. It does happen. It happens today. And it's always difficult, and it's always sad. And we see it in the church today as well, in the modern church, which is, again, not always the easiest thing to negotiate either, because you see goodwill, often even goodwill on both sides, but it's just not coming together, I've mentioned this before now, but just how I said last week, just that there is plenty of room in the church for those of a more charismatic persuasion and those of a more kind of Latin Mass persuasion. If they wish to, they don't have to be polar. They don't have to be enemies. They don't have to be opposites. You can like charismatic songs and go to a Latin Mass. I mean, there just tends to be this mentality, and it's not just a Catholic or a Christian thing. It's a human thing. A tendency to other the other person. To make them, they're the other, and therefore, to a greater or lesser degree, the enemy. They're like different or maybe wrong, and that it creates division. It creates terrible division. Now, obviously, it's different if there's something that's outright wrong. So if there's an outright heresy, then that has to be clarified and defined, and then kind of whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not, it now becomes teaching of the church. So just get over yourself, get on with it, and teach what the church teaches. Those times come, but that's not really so much the difficulty of today, I don't think. But this idea that within Christian communities, within the church, that there will be those who will invade and have no mercy on the flock, this is true. And we do see this throughout the church's history. So how do we manage? How do we deal with that? I was listening to a talk recently, and the speaker spoke about what he called practical atheism. Practical atheism. And he said practical atheism isn't so much that you don't believe in God. It's just you don't act like you believe in God. So it's a form maybe of what's that word? It'll come to me. It's God is there, probably, or maybe even definitely. He's there. But it's just got nothing to do with my real life and my real problems. There's just this divorce between heavenly things and grace and prayer and that and me. And I would say this is quite common, where we live this practical atheism where it's not that we don't believe in God, but in my daily life, he's just got nothing to do with it. This, I would argue, is actually quite common in Ireland, because we seem to think that, religion or religious things are for other people or just for that 1 hour of the week on a Sunday morning. So like prayer and holiness and all that kind of thing, that's for the nuns and the priests and all them people who pray. And maybe some of the grannies who have time. And that's kind of, it's their thing, the whole prayer thing and holiness and all of that. And then maybe at best, my faith, well, that's kind of the Sunday morning thing that you just try to get over with as quick as possible. And the quicker the better. Let's just, let's not labor the issue. Faith is for getting over with. You go there, do the religious thing, and get home. And then normal life resumes. And then the kind of life that you want maybe resumes. So it's a form of practical atheism, because your real life, your daily life, has nothing to do with God, or he has nothing to do with you. So we don't act like we're beloved children of God. We have this a real issue here in including God in our daily and ordinary situations. I was even talking to two people recently, and one said she has different hopes and aspirations for the future. And she said, look, but none of these things will ever come to pass. Good things never happen to people like me. Right? Good things never happen to people like me. And my heart just sank when she said it, because I thought, how do you speak to yourself? You know, what are the words you use to speak to yourself? Like, you don't need an enemy. You're your own worst enemy. I didn't say this there. This is all interior dialogue, i.e. monologue, I guess. So, like, you don't speak to yourself like someone the Lord is going to take care of. You don't speak to yourself like a beloved daughter of God. Good things never happen to people like me. What does that mean, by the way, people like me? What kind of a person are you that makes you so different to every other beloved child of God? Why wouldn't good things happen? Why wouldn't good things happen? Yes, bad things have happened to you in your life, absolutely, and unfortunately. And there's a great need for healing and for the Lord to be brought into those areas of sadness and loss. But to say good things never happen to people like me means, again, that God's grace and God's presence and God's power is for the other people. Not people like me, but others. Them people. Them, up in the north, I think they say demons. Demons, you know, them people over there. Right? But it's not for me. So I've othered myself. Very interesting. So you exclude yourself then. So this person absolutely does believe in God, just doesn't believe that God will actually take care of them. So daily life is just something to kind of get over with. And prayer is, or depth of prayer is reserved for other people. It's a very lonely existence. Because it means whatever you have to face, whatever difficulties come your way, you're on your own. It's up to you to sort it out. And if you can't, well, you're stuck. And that's exactly how she feels. Stuck. There's nothing that can be done. She can't fix it. God won't. So there you are. Like we have to be very, very careful how we speak to ourselves, like the kind of words we use to ourselves. Do I talk to myself like someone who has received infinite grace? Do I talk to myself like someone who has received infinite grace? Or do I talk to myself like someone who has received Holy Communion, and thankfully in the history of the church that Holy Communion had profound effects on a few mystics, and well done to them. Demons over there, they had great experiences of the Eucharist, and I'm really glad to God that he helped them. You're a good God, you helped them. But we do this. We do this. When I receive Holy Communion, do I believe I have just received God, and therefore God lives in me, his beloved son, his beloved daughter, and he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world, and he can do great things for me, and I can do all things in Christ who strengthens me. Do I believe those things? Or do I I've heard them, I know them intellectually, but in my lived life, God, grace, have nothing to do with today's problems. We do this easily. I think we do it more often than we might realize. We live this practical atheism. So it's interesting. It's often interesting when you come across a good talk or a good speaker, someone who's able to put into words maybe what you've been doing or what you've heard or what you felt yourself. And then someone puts into words and you go, wow, that's actually it. That unfortunately describes what I've done or what I'm doing or what I see in this other person. There was another person I was talking to recently, and they struggle with very low self-esteem as well, and they had a little prayer. I was fairly stern with them because I just kind of snapped them out of it a little. I didn't. There was no physical violence involved, but I said, look, You are a person of faith. Okay? Use that faith, like draw from that faith in your difficulty. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, have it out with the Lord. What is your problem? What do you want? What do you want today? And if you're annoyed, tell him you're annoyed. And if you're happy, tell him you're happy. And if you're frustrated, tell him you're frustrated. But like, just if you internalize everything and just push it all down, it eventually finds a way out. And usually, it's kind of like, it's like opening a Coke bottle you've been shaking for 2 hours way too fast, right? When it finds a way out eventually, it just explodes. Whereas if you have the gentle release, actually works. So if you can release it gently with the Lord, and if you cry, you cry. It happens. Get a tissue. It's okay. The world will continue even if you have cried. So just cry and you'll be fine. I know, sorry, this is a very lad approach. I know. But but sometimes we think, oh, I can't cry. Why not? So you'd rather drink yourself to oblivion, and that's better than crying. Or spending all of your life on a phone is better than a 10-minute cry. Have a 10-minute cry. You'll be okay. You'll be fine. Apparently, a good trick is to cry in the shower, and then people can't tell afterwards or something. I don't know. I've heard that from someone. Okay. So like you talk it out with the Lord and you cry, and then like it's just that this is called normality. By this is a normal way of dealing with very difficult things. Just today, distraction is so much easier that we can dodge our problems or slip into addiction with the goal of trying to cope or get on with things, but it doesn't fix the problem. It just pushes the problem along. So bring these things to the Lord. And I said, like, talk to him. And what was just absolutely amazing, was the Lord spoke back, which, I told her he would, but I was kind of really hoping he would as well. I was hoping she'd hear him, So he spoke back, and she wrote back to me and said, yeah, I had a good chat with him. And I said, well, how'd it go? And she said, well, he was a bit cheeky. I said, good, that suits you. And I'll just quote it now directly. Okay. So she said, I clearly heard him say, she said she had all of her problems and intentions and issues which she wanted to bring to the Lord. So she was just kind of listing all of them. And then she's, Lord, what are you going to do? And she said, I just felt very clearly these words in my heart. Talk to me more first, and then we'll talk about the problems. Like that kind of cheekiness is exactly, it suits her, So talk to me more first. Talk to me more first, and then we'll resolve the other things later. But let's have a bit of friendship first, and then we'll work on the issues. All right? And what was interesting was I said, that's fantastic. I said, write that down. Actually, get one of those, blessed is she pages or something, and write that down on your bathroom, for your bathroom wall. Stick it up somewhere. Remind you, that is a moment of grace. So don't forget that. That one's important. The Lord, God, the creator of the universe, has just spoken to you. Okay? Don't forget that. Because you're going to hear so much information, so many posts, so many Snapchatty things and all this kind of thing, so many distractions now in the next 24 hours, that divine intervention can get forgotten, right? Write it out in fancy cursive writing, whatever you do, and stick it up on a wall. Okay, remind yourself of that. And then she said, yeah, but no one knows the real me. And that's the wolves coming straight back in. God actually does. He actually does know you. Oh, I don't know. Sorry. You think you're wonderful and all, but you're not that special in the sense that God the Almighty, he's got you worked out. You're not the one exception of the 7 billion people on the planet at the moment that even God can't work you out. You're not that complicated. He's got you. Right. Okay, so don't think you're beyond God's grace. Don't think you're beyond God's knowledge. Okay, so we've got to stop this practical atheism. We've got to act like people who are redeemed. We've got to act like people who are saved. We've got to act like people We have received infinite grace. Act like it. Draw from it. Live like it. Especially first thing in the morning at breakfast. Act like people who are actually alive with the Spirit of God. Okay? You weren't here for breakfast this morning. It was tragic. So, but to act like, the Lord lives within us. The Lord lives within us. So we ask the Lord today to renew in our hearts that confidence that we are beloved sons and daughters, that we are never beyond his grace, and that if and when the wolves of division come to scatter us and confuse us and intimidate us, that we know who we are and that we live like people who have received infinite grace. Amen.